Subway was founded in 1965 by Fred DeLuca and Peter Buck. Fred DeLuca was then a 17-year-old aspiring medical student, and he went to his family friend Peter Buck, who was a working nuclear physicist, and asked him for advice on how to pay for college. The two of them opened in 1965 the first location of Subway, which was then called Pete's Super Submarines. We've always known that Subway was a cash cow. Fred and Peter both debuted on Forbes' billionaires rankings in 2004 with an estimated net worth of $1.5 billion each. But there's a lot of questions about their wealth, and we think that potentially there's billions of dollars that we didn't know about over the years. One clue to that was a 2017 deposition by Fred DeLuca's personal banker, which gave some rare insight into their fortunes. She claimed that Fred DeLuca was pocketing about $7 million in royalties each week in the early 2000s, and that wasn't even at the peak of Subway's sales. Subway switched to a franchise model about 10 years after the first Subway sandwiches location opened, and from there it really experienced very quick growth. By 1988, they had 2,000 locations across the US. Subway's revenue peaked in 2012 at $18 billion, but has been on the decline since 2015, which was the first year that Subway closed more locations than it opened.
Number one, they began to reach their point of no return in the United States, that they had too many Subways on too many street corners, and the number of stores just exceeded the demand. Number two, Subway had spent the prior 15 years not developing new products and just simply discounting their products. And every marketing professor and restaurant professional will tell you that if that's all you got, you're cheapening your brand.
Both of the founding families of Subway are very private. And for a while after they died, Fred died in 2015 from leukemia, and then Peter Buck died at the end of 2021. We didn't know what happened to Subway, but we recently learned what happened to half of the fortune when the foundation, started by Peter Buck, announced that in his will he had left instructions to give his half of Subway to the foundation, which then spends tens of millions of dollars helping charitable causes like spanning journalism, land conservation efforts, and also causes in his local Danbury, Connecticut. As for the other half, owned by Fred DeLuca, the family has not confirmed with us what happened to that half of the company, although there are a lot of signs pointing to the fact that it was inherited by his widow, Elizabeth DeLuca. Since his death, Elizabeth DeLuca has given hundreds of millions of dollars to charity from herself, so that signals that the royalties that were previously earned by Fred have been redirected to Elizabeth. The DeLuca family, through multiple attempts, did not respond to a request for comment. So the announcement of the gift comes as Subway confirmed that it is considering options for sale. The Wall Street Journal reported that the price could be as much as $10 billion for Subway. The timing of this gift means that Peter Buck's heirs avoid a pretty hefty tax bill. If he didn't donate his half of the company to the foundation, then his estate would owe 40% estate tax on the fair market value of Subway upon his death. In 2018, Peter Buck was engaged in a legal battle with the IRS over his gifting of some of his land that he had accumulated in the North Maine woods to his two sons. Peter Buck started buying timberland in Maine in 2007, and during his lifetime became one of the largest landowners in the state with over 1.3 million acres of timberland. So he gifted some of that to his sons at a discount from what he paid for it, and then got penalized by the IRS. And he saved, millions of dollars on taxes by doing that. It seems that the family still owns this land. His two sons likely own the land, which is valued anywhere from $300 million to $1 billion, and that doesn't appear to have been included in the gift to the foundation from earlier this year. The Buck family, through their representatives, did not respond to a request for comment. Peter Buck was long charitable. We calculated that he had given away more than $500 million before his death to his foundation. As for Fred DeLuca, there was less charitable giving before his death in 2015, but since his death, his widow, Elizabeth, has been giving away money at a very fast rate. She's given away more than $400 million according to an analysis of public documents, and that doesn't include gifts made in 2021 or 2022, as the filings haven't been made available yet. She's given more than $400 million to the Fred DeLuca Foundation since his death in just a few years. She also incorporated her own foundation, the Elizabeth DeLuca Foundation, in 2020. I spoke with one woman who runs a nonprofit that received a donation from the DeLuca Foundation in 2021, and she described them as very purposeful in their giving. You actually can't apply for a grant from them like you can from many other foundations, and instead they come to you, is what this person said, and they're known to have a big impact targeting the people who need help the most in some local communities in Florida. As for the Bucks, Peter Buck has a lasting legacy in Danbury, Connecticut, where he spent the later years of his life. According to somebody I spoke with, he helped transform the city, which has a population of about 90,000 people, and he was just very generous. They're both described to be very generous people. Since 2015 and 2016, when Subway's revenue started declining and the locations started closing, it's been tough to run a Subway franchise, according to the franchisees. In 2021, a group of over 100 franchisees wrote a letter to Elizabeth DeLuca outlining a whole host of issues with the ownership of Subway that they alleged was making their jobs a nightmare, in their own words.
Their average store revenues went up and down like a ladder, somewhere in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, okay? And that's very hard to make any money on. The other sandwich sector competitors, Jersey Mike's, Firehouse Subs, they are all running in the $800,000 to $1 million range. And that hurts, because you can make money at $800,000 or $1 million per shop sales, but at $400,000 to $500,000, it's very difficult. Mr. Chidsey has noted in interviews that what they want to do is they want to consolidate out and kind of force out the smaller franchisees, the mom and pops, if you will. This is not a surprise. They have been trying for the last couple of years to try to find bigger franchisee operators to come in and take over whole states of franchisees. The issue is that the store level profit has to be higher for these bigger franchisee groups to be interested in coming over and taking over blocks of Subway.
And so the charitable donations have some Subway franchisees kind of annoyed. I spoke with one who said that, the owners get to look good on the backs of the Subway franchisees who have been struggling, who have lost their businesses in recent years, and that really those profits should be more in their pockets than in the owners' pockets. That's something that has been exacerbated as the sale nears. Subway responded to questions from Forbes and said that it is improving its relationship with its franchisees, that it has made multiple steps to do so over the past few years, and that it needs a good relationship with its franchisees to thrive and is doing everything it can to do that.